be really careful not to let it touch the inside of itself at this point, because it will glue shut. Right? I'm really going on the very edge, making sure that I don't fold itself over. And this is why you don't want to paint that area. So the only thing that's going on that edge first is the Prosthetic.
When we take it off, the whole thing will be like a nice wax, nice face of wax.
Okay, now. Using this, I want to make sure that side goes back up. Now, got the edge cut under a little bit there, so being really careful to keep the edge up. Right, and I'm using this metal tool so that it stays nice and flat. There. And I'm going to take a little bit more Prosthetic profile.
Oh,
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Okay. And come back. Add a little bit more Prosthetic right at that edge on top. It's going to dry pretty quickly. Turn that way for me. This way. Let's get on the other side.
Yeah, I can see this, okay.
Mhm.
For a pre-made nose, that's not a bad fit. Okay. Now, this would be really just fine for theater. I'm going to show you, we'll let this dry for a second.
Can you see the profile that way too, in the camera?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's brilliant.
Turn back the other way so we can see the other side. Very good. Cool. So what we want to do is make sure that that seal, like the joint, is really flat. Okay? So we're going to take that, it should be pretty dry by now. Just want to make sure that we have that there. And truly, for theater, this would be great, but if this was film, I'll show you what we're going to do. First, we're going to powder. Because remember, the thing that's going on now is that film has, close your eyes here, okay? Film has so many different high-definition cameras now that they're picking up everything. Even newscasters are sort of horrified because they see themselves up close, and it's like, who wants to see every report on, interviews going on with, some woman who's, giving a story, and then the interview person, the person that's asking the questions, is also thinking, oh my God, I'm up close, everything is magnified, So there's makeup now for high definition cameras, and it's a totally different field. You have to learn a whole other row of products. So with this, we're going to take, this is called Bondo stipple, okay? And if you think of taking down a painting and filling in the hole in your wall where the nail was, in your spackling, that's what this is, okay? So.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So there's lots of scary textures going on there. Right. And this is enough to last for like 10 years probably, because you use very little of it, right? But it's thick, okay? So as you're working this, I'm going to take...
It's like fluff, so much like
cotton fluff, or marshmallow fluff, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to take this, okay, and I'm going to take that, just blend that right into that edge. Okay. And what we're going to do, after we get that, let's see, just a little bit here.
What's your head there, Mark?
Oh, jeez.
So in this analogy, am I the house?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Take that edge there. And what it looks like, it's really thick, right? So what we're going to do, hang on there. So pull this up. alcohol. I'm going to take my finger with some alcohol in it, and that completely smooths that out. Just keep your eyes closed there. Go on the other side. And that's your 90% alcohol. Okay, put that up there. So far so good. All right, so we're gonna let that dry. You see why it takes so long? Yeah. Right? So, Renee, you okay?
Yeah.
What we'll do next, I think, is begin to paint this. Right? I'm going to show you how to paint the PAX paint, and it's really pretty easy. But it's all about the texture that you put on top of it, and like deciding where you want to go with this. So, how do we want to do this? You know, is this a growth? Is this a burn? Is it a blister? You know, all of those different things. You know, you can. This would be the kind of thing that might work for Quasimodo. You know. You could do something way down here, Clinton, and build that up, you know, if you want that bump effect. The other thing is you begin to ask yourself, okay, what do I want to, like, do I have to use just a big cotton ball? Is there anything else I could use? You know, and this is where, like, when students come up to me with their final designs, a lot of times they'll say, well, how do I do this? And I'll say, I don't know, I've never done that. That's your design. You know, but based on everything you know and in the textures that we've done in class, how would you use them to achieve that? You know, is there something else? Is it lots of cotton, or is there something that we can put there and cover? You know, so how does that work? I had a student literally take a balloon, right? She stuck the balloon under the chin and did lots of different layers of latex, and then popped the balloon. You know, so it's like, then it's sort of all kind of sunk. So she ultimately decided not to pop it. You know, but you can do like a growth like that, and then, you know, how do you attach it, and, you know, do you use cotton around it, or how do you make that work? You know, so it's all about, you know, what's the goal of the design, and it's just really important to have a sense of knowing where you're going, which is why we're focusing on the illustration as much as this. Okay, so we'll start. This is all pretty dry. I think I want to just hit it with a little bit of heat. Okay. Did you see how fast that went on though? In terms of the difference between sculpting a nose and a latex box? So by going with something kind of in the middle area, I know I can go darker and lighter. I've been kind of using this brush. I want to make sure that it's clean. Use the Prosthetic, so I want to make sure that it gets out of there fast. Otherwise this brush will turn into nothing but a big, stiff thing. So I can use alcohol with my PAX paints to like thin them out and see where I want to go with it.
That won't hurt the paints at all. It'll just thin them out.
Just thins them out. Okay. So we take this and we put to work in the color. So give us a layer here. It's going to make it all kind of blend together. It's also going to make it look kind of flat. And we'll paint that before I step back in. So, is there anything that surprised you today? Did any of you watch that TV series where they do the makeup stuff? Face Off? Yeah.
Yeah, I did all this.
Yeah, you watch it a lot. It's interesting because when things go bad, what they always resort to is like these tried and true sort of old-fashioned methods. If they do something wrong, they'll definitely go back to this kind of methodology. But it's also in the paint job. You can make a crappy makeup application look really good if you're using the right paint and if you're good at it with a paintbrush. I'm always amazed at how, when I watch that, the person who has the best paint skills is the one who's typically like right at the lead, because no matter what, it's how you get the color shaded and everything else, and how it looks from a distance, right? And the people who are the judges, they will very often say, "God, look at this up close. This paint job's a mess, but it looked great from a distance," So they want something that is going to look great at a distance, but is like cleanly done up close too. They're especially into film in that show, so I'm not going to go too far. I'm just going to blend that there. So I'm getting all of that skin tone kind of the same in that area. Get into your hairline there. How is the TV? Are you able to see it in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because from this view, it looks really pale from here. I just want to see, if I walk around, what it's doing over there by you guys.
Yeah, you can definitely see where the paint is going now.
Okay.
It's not exactly the same. It's like you can see that something's happening. So this paint has the glue in it as well.
Yeah. And it's why it will cover the latex and make the skin look the same. It's interesting, when I was doing my workshop in thermoplastics in the summertime, we had these thermoplastics that basically look like a roll of cardboard. And when you heat it up, you can sculpt it into a breastplate or something else. And I have it down in the costume shop. But what was so interesting about it was they had you paint the whole thing when you were done in black. And I was like, oh my God, this is just going to be a nightmare to paint. Because mine, I wanted to be like a metal blue-green and have orange and yellow flame on it. And I thought, okay, if we have to paint this in black, then the only way I'm going to get color to cover it is to use acrylics. And I went to the store on my lunch break and I found like a kid's acrylic paint set in the grocery store. And I came back and I painted all these flame things in like orange and yellow, and it totally covered it. But it's the kind of thing where acrylic is a polymer, it's a plastic as well. So it's a thermoplastic that I was working on, and I was working with the same kind of thing to paint it, but it covers really, really well. So in PAX paint, when you have all of these different textures and things going on, what you want to do is make sure that you're covering all of that so that you get the same texture going from, or the same color going from her own skin to the texture of the blisters, to the texture of the wrinkles, the texture of the prosthetic piece. So the same color begins to happen that way, and that becomes a really important piece of that.
What you had?
Okay, we'll come And this way, I'm just going to do about half of your face today.
So normally if you were doing the whole face, would you paint the whole
Totally.
face with this?
Yep.
As opposed to
Everything,
like a foundation?
yeah. This is the foundation.
Okay.
Right? So when you're working in film, usually it's Pax paint that is your foundation. Especially if there's any kind of prosthetic work. You could use airbrushing and all that sort of stuff too. Right? So I'm going to leave some of that kind of rough there so that texture kind of blends in there. Make sure we have that. But this is, it's very different than fashion kind of makeup, Just look up. Keep looking up, okay? And then eventually go away, look down, close your eye. Just keep it closed. I just want you to keep that closed because of the smell of the ammonia. Okay. What I'll do here is take a little bit of powder. Powder all of that. And then I'm going to start to have some fun with the color. So now we've pretty much gotten all the different textures, the same base color. Can you, in a second, open your mouth as if you're in a screen? I want to see what the lines do to each of your face there. Good. Yeah, see how all of that? So one of the things I'm going to do is look at her own anatomy and begin to work with some of that. Okay.
So if you're going to do something like red and swollen with
Mhm.
the cotton swabs, would you still paint them the base color first?
Yeah, because it's going to cover it. And that's what we're about to do. Okay, let's get some of that out. Now, if you powder your own skin, ultimately your own skin is going to come through and it's going to fill out the powder to lighten the powder can go away. So, but with this, you have the latex there, so the latex has to be brushed off. Okay. So now, let's go to the fun part and add some of the cool colors. All right.
Can you guys see that? Okay.
On the TV?
On the screen. Is it like coming through?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird. I think I look a little bit like a puppet, don't I?
There's some puppety vibes, for sure.
Like, I don't know if it's just the long nose. It's making me think of Pinocchio, but...
Okay, let's see what it's looking like. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Definitely. It's interesting because I don't see your nose on this side
Yeah.
at all
Because
because it's all been painted the same. Over here, you really see the white of the prosthetic. Okay. So I'm mixing up some of the reds.
Don't you have like a 10-minute break in the 3-hour class?
Yeah. Do you need a break?
Take?
You need a break?
I'm just saying.
In a 3-hour class, you can take a 10-minute break. Right? Now, watch this, because I'm using the flat brush, but I'm just like stippling it from the side. I'm not painting the entire thing, so I don't want to like wipe out all the texture in some places. Right? If I'm going for something that I want to have that texture work with the brush on its flat side, and
Could you use the point of the bristles as well to
Yeah.
get like a super fine?
yeah, and we'll do that after. I just want to get the top part.
So that's another benefit of this besides wax, right? Because you can really, you don't have to be really gentle with the brush. It won't.
It's not going to
hurt
fall
it.
off. It's not going to hurt
Oh,
it.
what if it like burns?
Yeah, we're gonna make this sort of look like burns and stuff like that.
It's probably my worst fear in the entire world, is getting burned alive.
It was interesting when I had my stroke. One of my biggest fears ever was having being paralyzed.
Yeah.
And until all of a sudden realized you are, you know, was like, okay, it's a fear I can check off my list. And the other one was.
How long were you paralyzed for?
I was in rehab for about 1.5 years. So.
Is movement different now than it was before?
In my left hand still. I want to get a really fine shape where sure is. Okay. Take a little bit of this and go right into like those crevices, just to make them a little bit darker there. Up through here. So as I add different colors to this, I can kind of begin to take other lines out and make it look as if there's like veins that are underneath it. Look down this way. And in these areas underneath the skin.
Like throws up.
Maddie. Oh my god.
It just looks like you're slipping right down under there, like into your nose.
Oh.
Does it look gnarly?
It's gnarly.
It feels weird, okay. I can't see it, but.
Just in terms of like the texture, I'm getting like a little bit of golds and a little bit of greens. Just a little bit of maybe some of this going through here
Okay.
But you're like, I'm taking my break now.
You know, I'm the weirdest thing is that I'm like a complete freak when I'm like, I can't watch like brutal activity in film on stage. Like if it or on stage I close my eyes, I can't look at it. It's like, but if I'm doing it, it's okay. It's just like,
You're creating it.
yeah. Do you guys watch Versailles at all?
I saw that on. Is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
I just saw that.
Wait, it's on Netflix?
Versailles is a really cool, it's the story of Louis XIV and his court. And one of the things that they do, they pride themselves on the new kind of technology and things like that. So when they have the concept of mirrors casting sunlight and creating a flame, they use it as a punishment and they torch out people's eyes.
Oh.
And I
I hate history. I mean, don't get me wrong, like it's important, but
but as soon as I realized what they were doing in that scene, I was like, oh no.
I know. I watched Criminal Minds for a little bit, and then it just got really intense, and I couldn't deal with it. And as if the, you know how in the intro they like usually show like someone getting kidnapped or killed in like the intro.
Mhm.
If it had anything to do with fire, I would just skip the episode. Because like chances are, you know, the murderer is not killing them before he's setting them on fire.
Did you ever see Hannibal?
Oh, no.
The one with Mads Mikkelsen?
Which one is he? Is he the guy who's the reporter? And he pretty much gets tied to a wheelchair, set on fire, and thrown down a hill.
Well, hopefully it's a
It
rock.
depends on which version of Hannibal.
The one with Anthony Hopkins. The second one. Not Silence of the Lambs.
The other one.
What is like the story of Hannibal?
It's Hannibal
Yeah, he's a cannibal.
Serial killer.
Serial killer. And Jodie Foster is.
I totally pictured Sutton Foster when you said that.
Jodie Foster. I know Sutton Foster. But.
You know Sutton Foster?
Yeah.
Oh God. Can't you like make a surprise visit here?
So he's a little bit of red in through here.
When you're painting on the prosthetic
Mm-hmm.
itself, how do you like clean that, or do you not reuse it?
Prosthetics you never use.
Never use.
That's the killer of them. Okay, it's one and done.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you can't practice with it when you order it?
Well, here's the deal.
If it's on yourself?
If you go really, really slowly, now all of the stuff that I'm using on you comes off with different solvents, okay? There's different things to take off the paint, there's different things to take off all the Prosthetic and stuff like that.
Budgets for stuff must be insane.
Yeah,
In TV shows.
that's why they cost millions of dollars. But it's the kind of thing where if it's a one and done, it's really, really hard to continually try to like practice and do this. So I've done things where I've used really a slow technique to let it dissolve and take off the edge. But if you lose the edge, it's really hard.
You're like done.
Yeah.
Couldn't you use latex to just blend it out farther?
Could you use latex to?
Like, so say you got kind of a rough edge, could you use like a latex?
You can use the Bondo,
Right.
right?
The
You can't
fluff to like.
No, not the Bondo. I mean, what you would use is the Bondo, like the spackle,
Yeah.
to clear up that edge.
Yeah, sorry, that's right.
That's right.
So in Hannibal, Jodie Foster
As a reporter.
is a reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens?
So she uses him to help her figure out who else is another serial murderer.
But he's like in jail at this point. Right?
Yeah.
Got him.
And then he gets out. Does he get out?
No.
Oh.
So-
He does, wait, he is in jail, but he does get out somehow.
I think he doesn't like super psycho manipulate.
Oh, that's right,
into, like,
he
letting him
escapes,
out, yeah.
he escapes.
Because his whole shtick is that he's like super smooth, like Jeffrey Dahmer smooth.
Mhm.
But then
Is Jeffrey Dahmer smooth?
Jeffrey Dahmer was
Super charismatic.
so smooth that he got pulled over for a speeding ticket once with a dead body in a bag in the back seat. And not only did he talk his way out of a car search, he talked his way out of the ticket.
Yeah, so he had like, what was it? It's weird that I know this, but he had like an underage kid with him who like escaped.
Yeah.
But then he found him, and the police had found him too, and he was like, "Oh, this is my lover. He's just drunk. I'm gonna bring him back to my house." And they were like, "Okay."
Oh my god.
So-
Even though
Yeah, he was
wasn't it like
just-
really obvious? that
Yeah,
he
it was really
dying? Yeah.
obvious, yeah.
Like,
You know what's really kind of bad is I didn't know who Jeffrey Dahmer was before that Katy Perry song.
wait, what Katy Perry songs?
Remember the one where there's like a rap? It's Dark Horse, I think, and then there's a
Oh.
rap. That was middle school still.
It's so weird. I watched a weird movie about him recently. It's like,
Guys, come up here, because I want to show you a technique, it's called the reverse shadow.
yeah, I played Jeffrey Dahmer.
So
Do you see the
It
rebirth
wasn't
shadow?
bad.
Reverse.
kind of looks like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Your
Yeah.
instinct here is going to be to think that you have to paint in all these lines, right? But I'm going to take a darker value of the Pax paint and get even a darker one here. This one.
No, it's not something bad.
This is called muddy dark skin.
Be
right?
careful.
So you take out the little red cap from inside, right? And you save these because when you're done, you put them back in, right? And it really assures that your Pax paint isn't going to dry out. So, but a reverse shadow is instead of painting inside the line where the shadow would be, right, you take your paint and dry brush on top of those lines. Just like we were kind of doing in the other areas. Test, see what we have. Okay. So make your screaming face, okay? Right? And in like some of these areas over here, I'm just gonna kind of drag. Oops, it's a little thicker. Relax. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to drag this like really lightly across, and it'll pick up some of the tops of those. Right? So really what I'm shadowing is the top of the line and not the deeper part of it, but it's giving the texture to that. And you can see the texture kind of coming across. And that way you're not painting inside every line, but you're still getting the difference of light and shadow as you paint them. So that's giving, in through here you can kind of see it even better if I do go in through here. That's what I'm painting here. But it, let's see. Let's go this way. You could just go really lightly, and you kind of hit just the tops of things enough so that you see the contrast of color underneath it. What time is it?
5:10.
5:10, okay. Just layering in some other shadow colors. Right here. Okay. Can you sit up?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
This, I think, is the brightest one we have.
Now, is there a reason you didn't go over with like a pinker tone wash afterwards?
I haven't done it right.
No. Oh, so I didn't know if like, so you're doing all this and then you would do that over, and if there was a reason why you do that over instead of under all this.
Yeah, it'll be like a wash on top.
Is it just because it like blends it all together a little
Yeah,
bit?
it's like what you call it, a wash. Yeah, okay.